Welcome back to another episode of the Rise Over Run podcast. I am Doug Barnett. I'm here with my partner, Brant.
What's up?
We actually just got done recording 5 different segments with 5 different current employees about different aspects of the hiring process, the employment process. You're going to listen and hear pretty disparate stories, some pretty general themes that run all the way through them in completely different disciplines. Like, you have a roofing expert that has kind of similar stories to like a very early career product designer. And you would think that those careers don't have a lot in common, but in getting a job at Remi, there's quite a bit in common there. So we hope you guys enjoy the conversations, and we will catch you on the flip. All right, we are back with Hailey Clark. Hailey is an operations planning manager for us, so she oversees a lot of the operations coordinating, basically taking the work from when someone says to us, start a project, all the way through the end of like invoice a project. And it's very simple. It's like very, very easy work. Almost nothing goes wrong.
Never.
Okay, so what we want to talk about with Hailey is giving people a little bit of an understanding of like what it's like to work at an early stage company, because you did not work at an early stage company before this. Your employer had how many employees before this?
I'm actually not even sure.
15,000. 15,000 people work at that company, which is a lot.
Yep.
You were employee about number 20, right? And you just celebrated a year here at Remi.
Mm-hmm.
We are about 75 people today, so there's been a lot of change and a lot of growth in the year that you've been here. What is different about working for a company that has 20 employees trying to grow quickly versus a company that's established that has 15,000?
A lot. Culture, for sure, is just amazing. The people that we work with and knowing them on such a deeper level than I ever did before, especially working hybrid, it just felt completely disconnected.
Were you excited to come to the office full time?
I was not. Definitely not.
Yeah, that's the reaction we get before everyone starts. What do you think about working in person now?
I love it. It's good, one, to just get out of the house every day. Forcing myself to communicate with people is really nice, actually. And it's really nice to have everyone around to problem solve and just quick communications of how do we get this fixed?
Speed of response.
What do we need to do? Absolutely.
Okay, so we're in person. Culture, you said culture. What does that mean for you?
For me, it's the people that work here and just how amazing they are as individuals, not just like as peers and the work that they put in every day, but we just have really awesome people. I don't know how else to phrase it.
Yeah, we have to work really hard. And I said this in All Hands last month. One of the challenges of growing at the speed that we are growing is trying to find more people that live up to the team that is already here. It's very hard. Okay, what about day-to-day work? Like the function of your job itself. How different is it mechanically than it is working for a large company?
Coming into it, I would think the opposite than what it actually is. And it's that we are building and growing, so there's going to be a lot of pain in tech, the CRM that we use and whatnot, but it's actually quite the opposite. I feel like as soon as we have any sort of issue or an idea of how to make it better, it's addressed super quickly versus coming from a very big company. You have ideas and dreams that will probably never be touched. And if you do have a really big one that's important, needs to be done to make things function how they need to, it's probably going to be a year or so out. So you would think it's the opposite, but coming here, it's just so awesome to see how quickly
improvement can happen.
Yep.
So, Brant, we've talked about this quite a lot. One of the things that's been semi-challenging about building the team at Remi is most people at most companies are so used to chewing glass and not raising their hand and saying, this is causing me a problem, And what we want our team to do is raise their hand and say, this sucks, I don't like this, so that we can fix it. But most employees are so used to that their problems never getting fixed that they just build workarounds, and you end up with like 74 bridges that go to the same place.
Yeah, and you know, in the bigger companies, I think it's common on the flip side. I mean, basically, the people that are supporting the CRM are, you know, technical people, engineers, product managers, designers, things like that. It's pretty common from my experience at big companies to have those people actually kind of have an adversarial relationship with the people that use their tooling. We've tried pretty hard to like make it so that, you know, we're accessible on the technical side, and, you know, have our people go and sit with all of you and make sure that we're trying to be available and easy to access. So it's good to hear what you're saying. And I think, like, you know, all of your team has given us like a lot of great feedback to go run with, to really like make sure that we're not just building things that don't matter at the end of the day.
Was that a new muscle you had to build, Hailey?
Yes. I think that the muscle was always there on, hey, this is painful, this is really dumb, I'd like to fix it. But actually voicing it and being a part of the communications of like, this is how we do it, was honestly one of my favorite parts of joining. But yeah, it was definitely a muscle, I think, for the whole team. And it's super fun to see them now just being like, submitting things every day. Hey, this is a great idea, or hey.
So what does that look like at Remi? How does that happen?
We currently just have a channel where we can...
In Slack, right?
Yep. We can submit maybe potential bugs. We just had an update on how things process, and because of that, there was a few bugs. We just submit them.
Feature requests.
Triage. There's feature requests if we want something bigger that's not impacting the day-to-day right now of projects moving forward. It's more of a big idea. Let's just be better. Those are kind of how I differentiate the two. We can just submit those, and then they're triaged on how important those are to tackle.
Do you think people would be surprised because they assume like, oh, this is a tiny little company, probably everything's crappy, which is true. It's going to be hard to like feel organized and feel like I can actually make an impact because things are moving so fast and it's probably just going to be really messy. Is that your experience, or is it different from that?
I want to say yes, but in a good way. It's actually really exciting. It's never going to be not messy, I feel like, especially with the growth that we're trying to accomplish. So it's exciting to be a part of the messy and trying to keep organized with everyone. I think we do a really good job at it, but there are times where, you know, it feels a little overwhelming, and it's probably going to continue being that way. But I think this team that we have loves that and kind of strives in that pressure of how do we make this organized? How do we continue to grow?
So I remember when we were recruiting you, you were thriving in your current job. In fact, your manager expressed that to me multiple times. You kind of made a choice to come join a very early startup. One, why did you make that decision? And then two, how do you think that decision has played out? And how do you look back on that now?
Funny enough, I didn't know a lot about Remi coming over. I knew the goal, what it was generally going to be. I just enjoyed working and talking to everyone over here a lot. And so that was one of the biggest factors of my decision making to come over here. I've never been a part of a startup. I've always been a part of bigger businesses. So I didn't even know what to expect as far as differences go between the two. I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I'm so glad that I did. It's just the environment is different, the pace is different. It's funny to me because, like I said, I didn't know very much coming into it. I just had a very good feeling. I liked everyone that I talked to. I knew the general idea, and it's a big goal.
Yes, it is.
And I loved it.
Do you think you've learned things about yourself by joining Remi that you didn't know before? Or is it like, oh, I kind of knew that about myself?
I have. For sure. I think it's more so how involved I like to be in the building of things, which I don't think I would have expected. I usually like to stay fairly steady in what I'm doing, making sure things don't decline or anything. Like my pipeline.
High execution.
Yes. But I've learned a lot that I just like to be in the weeds and building and communicating that.
Building is fun. It is fun. Brent, like one of the things I'm hearing from Hailey is like, hey, once again, I kind of like got vibes from people that I liked. And that was like how this thing kicked off. What else are you taking away from kind of Hailey's experience of joining?
I mean, I think that one thing we screen for a ton is like this pattern of caring about anything that you put your time into. So in the interview process, it's like what a lot of the questions are actually centered around. You know, looking at hobbies that people really put their energy into, or career, or whatever. And I think that's a big part of, you know, maybe what comes through like when you're working with us from the outside. It's just like, oh, here's a whole group of people that like actually, you know, put their full focus into their work, and it just feels different. I think that energy, the, you know, excitement and all that stuff allows us to do things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do with, you know, a group of people that didn't care.
Once again, and I don't even know if I've ever talked to Hailey about this, but there were some things, we got some signals of quality in the hiring process that we were like, at least I did, that I was like, oh, that's fairly interesting. Hailey is pretty early in her career. You became a homeowner in the last year, right? How many people your age are homeowners around here?
Not very many.
So like when I think about, as I'm looking for signals, to find someone that literally like pulls themselves, their bootstraps up and figures out a way to buy a house in their mid-20s in Utah, in this market, with no help, signals like a level of discipline, a level of drive, a level of like understanding of what they're looking for out of life that's pretty not normal. And like, this is another example for people that I think they need to just be thinking about is like, what is it about me that stands out that's pretty abnormal? As weird as it sounds, Hailey being a homeowner in her mid-20s was like a signal for me of like, this person is not the same as most people in her stage of life. And we are constantly looking for like these little like flickers that we can go pick up, because in the interview process, you just don't know hardly anything about the people that you're interviewing.
Yep.
So you're trying to figure out like, who is this person and how can I get any type of indication that they are not just going through the motions? And having the drive, energy, and discipline to figure out how to buy a home in your mid-20s in Utah is like, that's one thing out of like many things that like we saw in you. You probably didn't even know that. Yeah.
I don't. I didn't before this.
Yes.
So I appreciate hearing that too. Being here with the peers that we have, I often feel like, what's the word? I just feel a little foreign or...
Intimidated?
There's
Imposter?
Imposter. I have like imposter syndrome a little bit of, am I meeting the bar that these people are meeting every day? So I just don't want to leave a day without knowing that I pushed everything I could push or do what I could do to contribute to Remi.
You know what's comical about this? Most people that, there is a percentage of people who wash out of our funnel that have never had that thought in their lives. That they're like, oh, I'm just the best at what I do. And it comes through in the interview and I'm like, the people here, like, they are constantly pushing themselves to be a better version of themselves. That's like one of the things we're looking for, this pattern of caring. It's a different way to say it, a more crude way of saying giving a crap is a highly underrated skill and very, very abnormal. Okay, Hailey, we know how much you love podcasting, so thank you for coming on here. And that wraps it up for Hailey. All right, we are here with Hunter. Hunter is new to Remi. Newer than even I remembered. It's what it's like to get old. So Hunter, you've been here like a month.
Yep.
Very, very new. And Hunter is an operations specialist at Remi, which means basically you're a roofing expert that helps the rest of our team kind of get the work organized in such a way that we know like scope of works are correct, work orders are built correct for contractors, that type of work. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Essentially, I'm building work orders, making sure seeing the drop through from start to finish, making sure the contractors are installing the roofs. The work is up to Remi's standard that we like to keep, right? So yeah.
So in terms of tech, like tech lingo, we would call you a subject matter expert, is kind of the role you play here at Remi. I don't really want to talk about the work and like what you do every day. I want to talk about how you got the job. Well, first of all, you met with Ben, who runs operations here at Remi, in an interview. And then after that interview, you came to an event that I spoke at and introduced yourself. And I think did we have an interview like the next day?
Yeah, it was the next morning.
The next morning.
Yeah.
We were actually interviewing. But those were not the first interactions that you had with Brant, myself. I feel so guilty even like thinking about this. But what was the first time that you, like what time was, we're at the new year. How long ago did you first start reaching out about Remi to work here?
So Remi had come across my radar like 2 weeks before you guys had announced your Series A funding.
Which was July.
Yeah.
Yep.
So probably like 3 or 4 days after you had announced that was when I sent my first message to you on LinkedIn, and it was...
You sent me a DM.
I did. It was probably just a really dumb message that I thought there's no way he's actually going to respond to this. So yeah, I had been reaching out on LinkedIn. I had run into Brant at Tsunami. I was going there for lunch and saw him there. I think I don't know if it was an interview or what you were doing, but
I guarantee you he does not remember what he was doing.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I interjected myself and just wanted to make the introduction, and it was super short. I didn't want to take away from what you were doing, but yeah, I just wanted to keep dropping myself wherever I could to show my interest. I had a job. I wasn't unemployed, but I wasn't happy with where I was at. So obviously, it's a tough market to be trying to find a job, especially in the young startup that's growing rapidly. But I definitely felt like I was unemployed because it was just going through it. I was applying to a bunch of jobs that I knew wasn't the best fit for me, but I just wanted something else. And I was super hungry to be a part of a startup. But
so by the time you actually got in with Ben, how many different attempts had you made, one? And two, how many different ways of making an attempt had you made?
Yeah, so before Ben, I probably sent anywhere from 15 to 20 messages. Ran into Brant once. Went to... like 2 weeks before my interview with Ben, I had seen you were speaking at that event. And so I had RSVP'd to go to that. It was obviously super unique and interesting that I had an interview scheduled with you before that. So I went to the event, met you, and then had my interview the next morning. So that was nice. But yeah, I was just constantly trying to figure out little ways that I could make myself known to you guys.
Let me ask you a question. How many other companies were you doing this level of effort to get into?
0.
Okay. I think there's a lesson there. I think so many people think like, I'm going to spray and pray and just hope that somebody notices me. Whereas it's I wish, the reason I wanted to talk to Hunter about this was I'm like, this level of effort and tenacity and determination is so rare. Almost never is someone just, I guess they don't love me.
Yeah.
I guess they don't love me, so I guess I can't work there. That actually is not true at all. We didn't even know Hunter before. Once we got to know Hunter, we loved Hunter, and we're very excited he's here, but we didn't really know, and I know this sounds maybe like people don't like this answer. There is so much going on. It is so difficult for us to parse through the noise. You have to find a way to pierce And there are other ways. We've talked about some of those in these interviews, but specifically with Hunter, the thing that stands out to me the most is like tenacity, determination at one goal. This is the company I want to work at, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get noticed.
What do you think like made you do that, or like help us understand what was going on in your mind behind the scenes?
Started out knowing I wanted a different job. I wanted to be in the startup world. And then I just went and tried to figure out where the best fit was for me. I came down to 2 companies that I was interested in, both in the roofing industry. I felt like the culture at Remi was much more of a better fit for me. So once I realized that Remi's where I wanted to be, that's where I set my sights. There's a couple times where I did feel it got into that, they don't want me, and I'd take a week off or whatever, and I was like, no, like, that's where I want to be. So I'd pick up again. But yeah, it was felt like a long 5 or 6 months.
That is a long time.
Getting in.
Most people give up after a week from a job hunt. Interestingly, another lesson there that I just heard from Hunter was he identified why Remi was a good fit for him. And, he's a subject matter expert at Remi. So, like, roofing was something that was, okay, I might not be able to leverage this knowledge that I have very many places, but this one place is a really good fit for me. And like what I can bring to the table that's unique. Man, people have a hard time articulating that in the job process a lot of time.
Yeah, a common thing I'll hear, even from people that are really talented is like you'll be sitting in an interview and it's like, what do you really want to do? Like, what are you after? What are you after in life? What are you after in your career? And they're like, I don't know, I'll do anything. Okay, that doesn't help me at all understand about whether you are a great fit for this position I'm hiring. Like, I think that maybe people think it's like a good sentiment to put forward, like, I'll do anything you want me to do. But, I think in your case, it was pretty clear, like, what you're good at, what you could do for us. And then it was just like, do those 2 things fit together?
Do we agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Easy.
And by the way, that doesn't mean that's the forever path for Hunter at Remi.
Sure.
Hunter, perhaps, I don't know. We don't know. You're 1 month in. You could perhaps lead teams. He could perhaps go help us build a new business unit. But for now, what we needed from Hunter was come in and be a subject matter expert in this very specific thing, which was the very thing he identified as the way that he could make an impact. Key, meet, keyhole, fit. And there's a lesson for people to learn there about like how they can get their foot in the door at these places. Hunter, what has been, you're only a month here. Has anything surprised you? Is it different? Is it the same? What's been the first month like?
It's been awesome. It's been by far my the job where I feel like I have grown the most, and it's I watched your podcast throughout the few months I was trying to get in here, and you guys talk about the talent you guys bring in, and it's no joke. It's that's one of the things that has been so cool for me is just watching and being a part of it, collaborating with the group, and just trying to keep up with everybody. My favorite part has probably just been from the top down, like everybody's in the weeds and in the trenches together. We've got a goal, and nothing's going to get in our way to meet that goal. So it's been really cool for me that I'm coming in the morning, and a lot of times like you guys are here before I get here, and you're here when I leave or after I leave. And so it's really cool that we're all in this together, and from leadership down, everybody's unified, and that just motivates me.
With Hunter, it's like, go after what you want. Don't do it for 50 companies. Do it for 1 to 5 companies. Really chase it. Identify how you're going to make an impact at the company, and like press on it.
Don't give up. Yeah.
Yeah, that one thing, it's like, this is what I can do for you, and let me show you how. And press on that one thing and make sure that they understand it. And then don't give up. It's like a lot of great learning. So, Hunter, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.